have watched so many documentaries on the mail order brides. I am fascinated by them. I think it is so interesting. And I've seen some of them where I'm like, maybe that's the option. Like, nobody here is great.
Yeah.
Maybe we just give up and we get to go to like some fun country.
That'd be cool. Like, I'm not,
but then like
it completely, but I mean, then it's like, who am I going to get?
Well, you know what? So I have a British friend and he was telling me, he's like, oh, over here, people love the American accents. You'd be so popular. I'm like, they want to listen to this? I don't even want to listen to this. But I'm like, if you could just, cause I don't, we just talk over Kick. And occasionally I'll just be like, if you could just like say a couple words into a video for me, just so I can hear you just like talk British at me. He's like, are you joking? I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, just say a couple random words into a video. You don't even have to show your face. Like, it's fine. And I was like, but that he's like, you know, it's the exact same way for you over here. And I'm like, why am I even in the States?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like it over here. I would much rather be somewhere else. This place is depressing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like even like no matter like what side of politics you're on, because everybody fights all the time. It's just like, God, I'm so tired. And I love politics. Like, you know me. Like, I love politics, but I'm so sick of them. I'm just like, this is so exhausting.
I just got into politics. And it's because they make me watch the news all day at work. Like, I have to have it on.
What channel do they watch?
Fox News.
Oh.
And it's nighttime Fox News because I work at night. So it's Tucker Carlson and it's I can't remember who's on after him. But either I like sometimes like Tucker Carlson starts talking and I go to my coworker, I'm like, I just can't. I just change the channel because his voice pierces right through me. But yeah, so I've gotten into politics and so I've become very knowledgeable. Nobody will talk about it with me. They're all like, please stop talking to me. I don't want to think about the election. I don't want to think about politics. I don't want to think about any of this. And I'm like, but I have so many thoughts. I'm like, I have a lot to say. And they're like, just keep it to yourself. Okay. But yeah, something interesting that I saw today was that, so the Republicans recently have been bagging on the Democrats for cancel culture. And today I saw an article that said that that 3 of the Republicans that voted to impeach Donald Trump have been censured. And I've seen that word a couple times. I didn't know what it meant. So I looked it up and it was literally just a public shaming. So like, you don't need a majority vote. You just need, or no, you don't need 2/3 vote. You just need a majority vote to basically just be like, you're awful. Shut up. You don't get words anymore. And they did this. And I was like, talk about Democrats being cancel culture. Like, and here it's, I'm like, it's both sides. We all love cancel culture.
Like, you know, because I'm pretty liberal for the most part, but I'm not like 100% liberal. Like, I support the death penalty under certain circumstances. Yeah. Like, if someone breaks in and rapes my kid and then tries to kill him, like, you're going to die for that. Death penalty. You're going to die for that.
Whether literally sit in the room
judge does it or I do it, you're going to die.
You're like, if they would let me push the button, I would do it.
Yeah, I would volunteer to do that. So like, and then if, you know, it's 100% certain this is like, I walk in and catch them. Of course, they're going to die anyways if I walk in and catch them. But, you know, it's one of those things where there's no doubt, like, you know who it is. I feel that if you take away someone else's right to live, you don't deserve yours, you know.
I agree.
Or if you rape a child, I'm sorry, but you don't deserve to live. Like, you've taken their innocence from them, and I don't think that you deserve to live for that, you know. And so I'm not 100% a liberal, you know. I've got my, you know, I'm flexible. And then if someone gives me enough evidence and they have enough facts to back something, I'll be like, all right, you know, you've convinced me. Like, you can change my mind on stuff. Like, I'm not, as long as you're not taking away rights from somebody that everyone is entitled to, you know, then and you can convince me. Like, if you can really prove to me that giving this corporation $1 billion is going to help all their workers, I'll be like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, there's a couple. I'm typically more Democrat or liberal. I haven't actually looked very much in the Liberal Party, but I'm pretty sure that's where I'd fall. But I hate that you can't. I hate that when you're voting, it's like it feels like if you vote liberal, you're throwing your vote away, which you're not. But because of the way that our system's set up, people are like, wait, we have more options, and you're like, yes, everybody, like, vote for just what you feel and see where it shakes out. But I sit there and I'm like, well, I guess I'll vote Democrats and my vote counts, but I don't think mine did, because they never sent me an email saying that my mail-in vote was counted. I tried. I did the best I could. I don't think I voted the year before, but I did this time, and it didn't count. So
that's bullshit.
I know, but luckily, because I live in a Democrat state, I knew that, like, because I knew mail-in voting was a risk, but I did it early. But Illinois does not have the "we received your vote" button. So, like, other states are like, we have sent you your mail-in packet. We have received your mail-in packet. We have counted your mail-in packet. Illinois is like, we sent it, and we counted it. And I never got the "we counted" email. So I was like, well, am I allowed to go and, like, vote in person? And I hate my voting place. It's in a school, and the school is happening while you're in there voting. And it's like it's like a Catholic school too. So there's like, just like people everywhere, and like, you're not allowed to go this way. And I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I want, like, just like one building where you're in and out. But I knew that Illinois is typically a Democrat state. So I was like, well, even if my vote doesn't get counted, I mean, I'll be fine. But I do hate that it wasn't counted. I probably won't mail and vote the next time, just because
I
of that.
don't trust it to mail and vote.
I don't either.
Early voted in person, and I'm registered as undecided. And in Arkansas, you can do that. You don't have to register as one party or another. So I'm just registered as undecided, and I get to pick from, because, like, I think if you're registered as a Democrat or a Republican, it, like, auto picks those, and then you can change.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, you're not picking for me. Like, I might want to flip sides for a certain candidate or something. Like, I don't know, what I'm going to do or what party they may be affiliated with. Like, you're not picking shit for me. I'm going to do it. Each individual one I want to pick. Yeah. So I'm as undecided, and that's how I do it. But no, I went in person, and there was a long line, but there were a lot of people, and and I'm in a red state. Being in Arkansas, it's very red. And so I knew that I'm pretty much throwing my vote away, because there ain't no damn chance,
Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm planning to move to Indiana, which is a red state as well. And I was like, well, I'm doing the best, but I think a lot of people are moving to Indiana. So, like, maybe.
Yeah. Which, so anyways, what I was gonna say, so while I was in line, there were people behind. There was, like, someone behind me. There was a little old lady in front of me. She was like, I haven't voted in years, but I've got to vote this year to get that clown out of there. And then there was a guy behind me that was like, I've been eligible to vote for over 30 years, and I've never voted in my entire life, but I'm voting this year because we got to get that guy out of there. And I was like, what if we actually flip and go blue? But we didn't. Like, we didn't even come close to going blue. But
it's so interesting with that too, where, like, you pick and choose when you're like, I don't feel like I need to vote. And it's like, no, but, like, what if we all did? Like, what if we all actually voted?
Like, there's some countries you're required to vote. Like, it's like everybody votes. You don't not vote, And then is it California or Oregon or somewhere where when you get your license, they just auto register you to vote? So everybody's registered.
Which would be nice. I didn't even realize everyone should you had to register to vote.
Yeah.
I thought it was automatic.
Like when you go pay, renew your car tags or anything legal, you should automatically be registered to vote.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because that was the biggest
Like when
thing.
you turn
I'm like,
18, you're
how do I register to vote? And like, what do I do? And like, the only thing, I think I voted in the first Obama election. And then I have a very clear memory of like my first voting. It was in elementary school, and we did like a mock election where we voted for the president, and I absolutely sold my vote for a cheese stick. So like like somebody was like, they were like, oh, if you vote for Bush, I'll give you my string cheese. I'm like, done.
Oh, was that the Bush Clinton one? We had like a mock election for that one too. Fourth grade.
Yeah.
And my friend Meredith, I think we were like the only ones who were voting for Bush because Clinton's from Arkansas. And so even though Clinton's blue and liberal, like we were all the way blue in our state then, But I feel like around that time we were pretty blue, like even the prior elections. It was like after Clinton when we flipped to red in Arkansas. Before we were pretty liberal and pretty progressive. And then my parents' generation started getting older and grumpier and they fucked everything up. So
that's how it goes. So you gotta keep doing your childish things before you get old and grumpy.
Yeah, I know. And there's like been a few things I've started to turn kind of red on. I'm like, God, I'm like, no, I'm gonna stop myself. I will not fall into this.
That's how it happens. You get older, you get angrier.
I'm like, no, I can't change my stance on this. Can't do it. Not without like good concrete facts and evidence and good reasons to do it. Not just because I'm a grumpy old prude. Like
there's a couple of things that like I could just never go red because I just can't. I could never see myself in any. Okay. My cats have decided that now is the time to fight. So, but like abortion rights and birth control rights. And I cannot live in a world where like, if I were to get pregnant and I wasn't ready, because I know me, I'm 30 years old and I am not financially secure enough to have a child. So like, if I got pregnant, it would 100% be an accident. I'm on birth control. I take precautions. And my body could not handle a pregnancy. So, if it happened, I would know that, I took every precaution I can. But I would hate to live in a world where like, I knew that I had to give my baby up and like, I don't know what happens to it. And so I hate that. And like the people that, are raped and the people that are victims of incest. And there was a couple states that were like, nope, even in cases of rape, even in cases of incest, you can't terminate a pregnancy. And I'm just floored by that. Like it was one of those things.
We've got stuff going on in our state right now regarding all of that, where they're like trying to basically ban it almost completely.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to start an Uber service that's to drive people to the abortion clinic out of state because can you imagine if we didn't have abortion, the overpopulation? And I've actually got like a stupid theory on that and it's totally dumb, but I feel like it has some weight behind it. So back, whenever abortion came into, I guess, legality, I don't know the way you'd say that, anyways, it became legal. Roe versus Wade and all that. It was at a time, like during the boomer time, there were tons of kids. It was kind of, okay, we've got too many kids, not enough adults.
Yeah.
As far as your tax money goes, because kids aren't contributing tax money. People get tax breaks for having kids, so tax wise, it was financially beneficial for the country to have abortion at that time. Now, because of our generation, and the generation after us, they're not having kids. And they have all these options, birth control is easily accessible. We don't need the kids. So now they're like, shit, we got to get rid of abortion because we don't have enough young people being born to accommodate Social Security, to keep paying these taxes. Because by the time, we're old and like Lily's generation and Sagan's generation are older, if they don't have all these kids, who's going to be paying all the taxes for everything? So I have a theory that that's really what it is. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with murder or women's rights or any of that. It's 100% has to do with taxes.
Like, I would
because
fully
the
believe
timing
that.
of it, when they are all for abortion and now that they're all against it, and it's very much they're trying to put an end to this. Like, we live in 2021. Like, come the fuck on. Like, there's no reason to get rid of abortion. Like, I am 100% for abortion.
Yeah.
And not that I hate kids. Like, I've got 2 kids that I love dearly, you know, but I hate the idea of a child being born into an unwanted home. And you know, people are like, oh, well, they could put it up for adoption. Like, do you really see how often that happens and they get adopted into a good family?
I was gonna say, yeah. Like, well, not to mention, there's so many kids in foster homes right now that where they're like, oh, nobody wants these foster kids. Like, yes, babies get adopted easier than older kids, but you really want to overwhelm that system?
Yeah. Yeah, and imagine if they completely did away with abortion. If there's supposedly so many million abortions a year, we can't accommodate that many kids. Like,
no, but yeah, I fully believe that you were totally right, because I that's one of my main factors is that, like, I can just afford myself. I have an apartment. I'm not living paycheck to paycheck anymore. But I'm still one like catastrophic disaster away from right back at square one. And if I had a kid, I would absolutely need to be on government assistance.
They're expensive.
They're so expensive. And I think it was like a couple of years ago, they said it was like $500,000 or $1 million just to like get a child to age 18, not including college. And like, God forbid you have a stupid child or like,
right.
You know,
or one that was like me, like I'm not stupid, but my grades are really shitty because I have ADHD.
Yeah.
And so even though I'm smart, like my grades do not reflect that. Like I had one of my professors that was like, you're one of the most intelligent students I've ever had, but you have horrible grades. Like your grades are they're just pure shit. Like, I don't understand how you can be so intelligent and have such shitty grades. Like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, I don't know. I just can't stay focused. And that was before I'd been diagnosed, you know, and I just always, you know, Lindsay's always in La La Land, you know, is what everybody always said. And it was just, I'm just fucking scatterbrained all the time. So
when I was in high school, my year was the last one to do it, but they said you only have to take 2 years of math and 2 years of science. Well, I hate math and science because I'm not great at them. So I took my 2 years of math and then I took my biology because you were required. And then I found a loophole where sophomores could take earth science instead of chemistry. And my guy was like, he's like, you really should be taking, you know, physical science or chemistry, you know, one of those two. And I was like, yeah, it says right here I can take earth science. So like, hand me them rocks. And so I took that. And then junior year, as we all know, is when you take, what is it, the ACT? Yeah. So guess who didn't have math or a science class to prep for those sections in? And I took the ACT and I'm like, oh, maybe I fucked up here. So I did really well in the reading, but you know, I got the scores. I have no idea to this day what I got on there because I refused to look. Because I'm like, I didn't take a math or a science that year. The science I took before that was earth science. I'm like,
you should like register on the ACT website and get your scores just to see.
I don't want to know them. You know what? I did do a little bit of college and I had to take the test and I scored so poorly in math that I had to take 2 remedial math classes to get to the basic level math class. So that's where we're at with my math knowledge.
Well, so on my ACT, when I took it, you know, it was my senior year in high school, I think, when I took it. And I had like stayed up the hall, like I'd stayed with a friend the night before. I probably had gotten like super high on weed or some shit, like who knows, because that's all I did back then. And so I didn't sleep. I had fun with my friends. I go to take my test and I get to the reading portion. I was like, I ain't about to read this shit. Like first I can't focus anyways, unless it's something interesting to me, like it's just not going to happen. So So I just like went through and marked answers on that section. Half the math, I just marked answers. So I ended up making like a 19 total. And my brother, my younger brother, Adam, he took the ACT the same year I did. And he's 5 years younger than me. And he scored like a 20. And he was in like 7th or 8th grade. And I'm like, thanks. Make me look stupid. And then he ended up, his final score was, I think, 30 something. So, you know, he gets a full ride and all that. And he's the smart one. But no, I had to take a remedial reading course. And when I was in that, the first time I failed it, like this, it wasn't that I couldn't read. It was because I was shy back then. And the reading teacher wanted us to go read kindergarten
out loud.
And I was like, I can't do that. I can't do
it.
So I failed it. And then whenever I was just going to EMT school. So I was just taking like these courses just to get them out of the way since I was in EMT school. So if I wanted to keep going farther, you know, and actually go to school. And so I was just like, fuck it. And then whenever I actually went back to school, like to get a normal degree, I took like an asset test at the community college to override my ACT score. And I got like an award for my English and reading portion. And they were like, I thought that you were in remedial classes for this.
You're like, sure was.
I was. It wasn't that I was stupid. It was just that I was lazy and didn't want to answer all the questions.
That was my speech class. You got an extra, what was it? You got an extra like 5 or 10 points if you would watch your speech. And I refused to watch myself on camera.
No, I wouldn't be able to do that.
And my teacher was like, if you would just watch your speeches. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I'm scoring high enough on here that like, it's fine. Like whatever you give me is fine. And I wrote all of my speeches the day of. I did them at work. I got in trouble once at work for like doing my speech. So they're like, why aren't you working? I'm like, because there's nothing to do. And they're like, well, you could be. I was like, I'm not allowed to leave this spot. And I've already cleaned. So I'm going to go ahead and write the speech because it's due in 4 hours. So if you could just mind your business.
Yeah, but know what you're saying about replacing the classes. So when I was getting my basics in my associate degree, so like, instead of taking chemistry and normal biology, I took like zoology, microbiology, and geology, or like the ones I took.
All the ologies.
All the ologies, because I was like, well, I want to get to like the rock class, the geology class. I took that one because the professor was just a drunk. So I'm like, that'll be easy. So I took that one, and he was a drunk. And so like we went on field trips, and he would drive the like school van, and we'd stop at the gas stations that had alcohol so we could get a beer. Like it's so bad.
It's incredible. Just the times.
Such a Southern thing. Like
I love
full trip and the teachers drinking.
I love seeing like the things that were okay then and like the things now, and you're like, wait, like you really just let me like go out and be like, oh, I'm gonna go to the abandoned haunted field for like 6 hours, like be home in time for dinner. Okay.
Yeah, and then I did the microbiology and zoology just so I could like dissect animals and then look at stuff under a microscope because I love doing that. Like I have like a lab quality microscope, and like I look at shit and like diagnose myself. Like when I was in microbiology, me and my friend Alicia were in there, and I'm looking at it, and I was like, oh, it's actually how we became friends. Okay, so she's looking at some stuff under one, I'm doing one, and it's like after class or before class, you know. So we're kind of just trying to learn the stuff. And I was like, oh my God. She's like, what is wrong? I was like, come look I think I have AIDS. Like, I literally think that I have AIDS. These cells of my blood look like these AIDS cells. I'm pretty sure I have HIV. Like, I think I just figured out. She comes and looks. She's like, I mean, you may want to go get checked just in case. And I'm like, oh my God, I have AIDS. I don't have AIDS, by the way. It was like this. It's just stupid. It was like, I don't even know what it was that we were looking at. Like, I don't think I'd even prepped it right. Like, it was so bad.
You accidentally put the AIDS blood on your
friends
microscope.
Over me thinking I have AIDS in the lab.
Incredible.
It was so bad. But no, so I took that and I still like I've looked at like Sagan's blood and Lily's blood and I'm like, ooh, what do we see here? Like it's just I look at everything.
Yeah,
So
I'm
weird.
not about all of that. Like I don't like it. I don't like the science. I would not dissect. I didn't want to dissect the frog in junior high. And then I think we had us dissect pigs, and I recall getting out of it because I was like, yeah, I owned a pig getting up, so like, or growing up, so like, no, thank you. I will not be dissecting little pig babies. Thank you, though.
Yeah, no, I did the pigs. We did a shark. We did a worm. We did a rat. When we did the rat, so like I had a boy rat in our zoology class, there's like 5 or 6 of us. It's a very small class. And I even think it was like all girls. And the professor was a girl, you know. So I'm like, and there's like another class doing stuff at the back of the lab. And I'm like, I really want to dissect this rat's testicles.
Yeah, you gotta.
To look at it. Like I want to look at the scrotum, you know. So my professor was like, I mean, go ahead, you know. I was like, yeah, but as soon as I do, some students gonna be like, oh, what are you doing? You know, and she's like, no, they're not. They don't care what you're doing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I swear to God. So I was sitting here doing that. A student walks by. There's like 5 or 6 of us sitting here, comes up to me, he's like, so what are you doing? Swear on my life. And I'm like, dissecting this rat. Are you dissecting? Like, and then she's like, sees where I'm dissecting, and she's like, okay. This is so awkward.
That's always like,
look. I'm like,
you're like, that's why we all mind our own business.
yes. Like, I don't come back there asking you what you're doing. Don't be coming up here prying into what I'm looking at.
I thought the post that say like the second half of your life begins when you stop worrying about what other people think. I'm like, yes, like
yeah, like now, because I was in my early 20s. Now I would be like, bitch, I'm totally checking
like,
this
hey, everyone. Everyone, come here.
Check this out. Yeah, like I'm so different now than I was then. I was so shy and quiet.
Yes, I was the exact same way. And like I always remember, it's like I have my Barbie collection, and I only have a couple on display now, but I used to have a shelf just like full of them. And I had a guy over, and he's like, these are creepy. Like, do they have to be out? And I like it really bothered me at the time. I was like, should I like not be collecting Barbies as a grown woman? Like, should I like, is this cool? Is this whatever? And then I like got older, and I'm like, no, these are really pretty and I like them. And he sucked.
Yeah,
and if they creep him out, like, yeah, I was like, that's his problem. Like, I don't mind that they're staring at me while I sleep. Like, it's fine. And so like,
yeah, like now I would probably take those little rat testicles and stick them in some formaldehyde and stick them on my shelf. I'd be like, check out those rat testicles.
Well, I was watching, what was it? Oh, I was watching a Try Guys video, and they, one of the guys that was on there, his girlfriend, she does stuff like that. So she does the bugs like in the shadow boxes with the pins, and she has like a bunch of like animal skeletons that she made, and like they were all just like, they were like, this cool. And like one of them was like, she made me a cat skeleton, and like I've got it on display, and like it was just one of those things that you're like, yes, like it's not weird, it's cool. Like it's whatever you're into, and just being like,
yeah,
I'm into this. Yeah, you're like, I like pinning bug wings, and I like, doing skeletons of animals, and like it's cool. And it's just like, yes, like that's what you need. Just like a bunch of people just being like, this is what I'm into. Deal with it or leave.
Yeah. So you haven't because we were talking before about Sister Wives.
Yes.
I love Sister Wives.
Like, I do too. I'm obsessed with it.
Love Sister Wives.
I think the concept is genius. Yeah. I think that like done correctly, it's the best system in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Like I would love, and I like the whole like sharing a house even. Like,
yes.
I would be fine with that. I would want my own bedroom, but I mean like I would be fine with sharing a house, because then it's like, because I've been in relationships with women. It is so nice to have another woman around that knows how to clean the kitchen the right way and cook the right way and fold the towels the right way. And like,
or one of those things where you're like, listen, you don't know how to use the kitchen the way that I know how to use the kitchen. So get out and I'm just going to handle all kitchen things. And like, it's just that like delegation of like, this is your skill set and this is where I'm lacking. You pick up this slack. I pick up this slack. Like, it's this beautiful like community setting.
And I'm very much it takes a community to raise a child type thing. Like, I don't think Lillian would be who she is if it weren't for like my ex Emily. Like, she played a huge role in her childhood. And, you know, with my ADD, like, I'm so scatterbrained that I can't stay focused, you know, on anything for very long, where Emily was like hyper focused. Like, she could stick to, this is our schedule. This is how we do things, you know, and she wouldn't forget if Lily was being punished or grounded from something. Like, she wouldn't forget it. Like, I'm the type, I'm like, you're grounded from your phone. Like, go put it up. And then 30 minutes later, I've already forgotten. Like, she's coming in there and is like, hey, I need my phone to call someone. I'm like, oh, okay, it's right there. Like, I completely forget. So, and then when both Lillian and I were having some health problems, like, we had to eat a certain way because we were trying to narrow down like what was going on. And, you know, Emily was very dedicated to make like meal prepping for us so that they were ready to go, made. And if someone else is cooking for me, like, I'll eat whatever the hell you cook.
Yes.
Like, I didn't care. So it was great. Like, I lost a ton of weight. I mean, it worked out wonderfully because it was always ready. Like, she would get up and have breakfast ready and then like make me lunch before I go to college. Like, she was wonderful, you know, and I think that played a huge role in Lillian and how she's so herself is so disciplined and organized. And she recently even got diagnosed with OCD. Like, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, no, like, I would much rather be that way than be like me, where it's like there's clutter and oh my God, like, I don't even know where to start. Oh, I can't even handle it. You know, where Lily's like, everything is in its place, everything has to be perfect, other than her leaving like cups by her bed. And I'm like, get all these damn cups out of here. But I mean, as far as like her stuff though, like, it's very organized. Like, she has her essential oils and incense and all that burning. Like, she's a very peaceful room. For the rest of the house, it's me and Sagan, so it's just chaos.
You're like, sometimes you just go in there so you can just like be in a clean, calm space. You're like, don't mind me, I'm just
and like as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at keeping the house clean. Like, when Anthony's off work, it's not gonna happen, but like on the days he works and stuff, like, we keep everything pretty much. And it's not that Anthony's the one making the mess. It's just that he's playing with Sagan and keeping him active and distracts me, you know, so it's just, you know, everything's just more of a distraction. But so like, I've gotten better though. Like, I can kind of keep my routine going. I see this, I try to keep it, you know, taken care of, but Lily's so much better at it. Like, I wish I had a little bit of OCD. Other than just in spreadsheets. Like, I do in spreadsheets, but everywhere else it's like chaos. And I don't know if that's why I like the spreadsheets, because it's organized and it's separate from real life that's chaotic, you know. But,
yeah, I have just like my apartment, and I can clean it 100%. Everything has a space. And then like 3 days later, it's the exact same way. And I'm just like, and I have nobody to blame but myself. Like, it's just me here. I'm just like, well, this sucks. Let's do this again. And like, the worst things I do, one of my cats loves catnip. And so I just pour it out on my table, and then he just rolls around in it. And then as soon as he's done, I just wipe it onto the floor, and it just goes into my carpet where it dies. And like, that's just how I am. But like, something else. So not even just the child raising. I think relationships are better when you have multiple people. Because I found too, something that I liked was that you have different needs, and like, your needs will change as you get older. So even just like having the multiple pieces for the relationship,
one person to fulfill all of your needs,
it's crazy. Forever.
You put a lot on one person. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I don't think I could successfully have had a relationship from the time I was, you know, like in high school for the rest of my life with one person. Like, I've changed so much that like, that's just so unrealistic.
And, you know, it's not even that it's so unrealistic, because like, it's entirely possible, but the other person has to be willing to change with you.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's like, you have to change with the other person, but you also have to change in the same direction.
Yeah.
And like, and that's where it was one of those things where you're like, if you have multiple people, it's like, listen, I am not great at like emotional needs. So it's like, if you need somebody for emotional needs, go get somebody for emotional needs. Like, if you need somebody to do this, go like have multiple people. Like, don't, and I'm the exact same way. Like, don't put it all on one person, because like that stresses me out. If somebody's like,
you're like, or like if it's vice versa, you're like, I feel like I'm failing this person because I can't fulfill all of their needs. Like, I can't live up to all of their expectations. And now I feel like a failure, and it puts you in the depression where you're like, I can't ever succeed in any sort of relationship. And it's not so much that you're bad at it. It's that you both have different needs and you can't fit those just right, and that's okay. Like, that's okay. It shouldn't be wrong.
I had an ex once, and I always think of this when I think of like what I want in a partner. And one of the things I'm always looking for is somebody with like outside interests and friends and hobbies. And it seems like such a very basic thing where you're like, I want somebody who has friends and hobbies. And you're like, who doesn't have friends and hobbies? But they also have to be willing to like go out and like see them. So I had this one time, I had plans for like a week in advance. I was like, hey, I'm going to go and see a movie with this friend on this day. Just a heads up, and not like for permission or anything, literally just to be like, hey, this is, my schedule. Like,
don't make any other plans because I'm going to be busy.
Yeah.
At least not with me.
Yeah. So the day of comes and I'm getting ready to go out, and it's just the movie. So I'm just like, changing everything, and he's pouting, and he's just on the couch pouting. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And like, my immediate thought is like, whatever the fuck you want. Like, you want to order a pizza, like, go for it. You want to play video games all night? Like, please do it. You want to call a friend and like hang out with a friend? Go to the movies yourself. But like, he just like was pouting because I was going out with friends, and what was he going to do? And I was like, yeah, I can't be somebody's just everything. It was so much pressure. And that's what led to like kind of the downfall of that relationship. Because I was like, do I want to be in a relationship with somebody who like only relies on me for everything? And it's just terrifying.
That's too much pressure. Like,
and I was 22, so I didn't even know who I was. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And then I dated his like twin. Like, and I ended up, so that's what happened is I started the guy that I dated after him, literally a carbon copy. And a year into the relationship, I just woke up and I went, oh my God, you're my ex. And then I broke up with him because of it. Cause I was like, I've done this. I was like, I wasted 3 years in this relationship, like, a year ago. And he could not understand. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, but that's what happened, is that I've already done this relationship and you were the exact same. And I actually read a book recently. And let's see what it was called. But I absolutely love it. Oh, it's, Are You Keeping Yourself Single? And it's basically about dating unavailable people and how you have like your patterns, and like you're always like dating like the same kind of person until you decide to change it. And I was able to like recognize my patterns of, you keep dating people who don't fulfill you like intellectually, like push you to be better, and you keep dating people who are emotionally unavailable themselves, and or like are physically unavailable. And like, I have a habit of attracting people that are already in relationships. And sometimes I've known, and sometimes I haven't. And I don't know what part of my brain is just like, no, he totally is just like busy.
Because they're not overbearing with you, because they're occupied. Yeah. So they're not suffocating you, I think is what it is. It's like, this is a pretty easy relationship because they're not up my ass 24/7. Like, they have other responsibilities. And so,
but I just know some of those responsibilities were a different family that I was unaware of. Like, I had that last March. I reconnected with this guy who I had dated when he was married. And I did end it because I was like, I can't I can't do this anymore. I know that you have a family. I know that you're not going to leave. I don't want to be a part of it. So I ended it. And then years later, you know, he said, I'm not in a relationship. You know, my marriage is over. Like, do you want to try? Me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still smitten with you. Like, yes, let's do this. So we're dating for 6 months. And he's doing the exact same thing where he's just like not overbearing and like he's busy with work and he's doing all these things. And I don't think anything of it because like I'm off doing my stuff.
Yeah.
And then one morning I get a text message and it was from his number and it said, here he has a girlfriend, bitch, like leave him alone. And I was like, okay, well, bitch is uncalled for because like I didn't know. And I was like, do I respond? And I was like, no, you don't respond because that's the end of it. He has a girlfriend. You are not that person. You don't want to date somebody that's already in a relationship that's apparently cheating. Like I'm all for open relationships. I love open relationships, but like people tell you they're in open relationships. They're not in open relationships.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I had that and I was like, oh, okay. So that part of my brain is just broken where I'm just going to like reason away every time that there's an excuse because I'm busy too.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Sister Wives. So what was the last season you've watched?
So the last season that I watched, it had to be 2012 because that was when I stopped having cable, but they had just moved into their 4 houses. And Mary's daughter had just gone off to college or was going to college. So Mary was in an empty nest and she was, you know, kind of feeling a little bit left out. And then I've seen things over the years. Like I know Mary had the catfish. I saw that one of the somebody else's daughter got married and had a baby and the baby possibly had an issue. Can't remember 100%. But
there was a recent one that like just happened.
I thought it was a couple of years ago, but it might have been like
there may have been another one that I just don't remember.
Time's not real anymore.
Yeah.
But I know she was the one with the black curly hair. So yeah, whatever Maddie. Daughter that is.
Maddie?
Yes, that sounds right.
Maddie and Caleb. Yeah.
Yes. So they got married and they decided that they don't want to be polyamorous. And they had a baby, and I think the baby had some type of issue.
So that was on this week's episode, or that last season. I can't remember because I caught up before watching the one on Valentine's Day.
Okay.
But
that sounds right, because I just saw it on like a Facebook article.
But now they've moved out of Las Vegas. And they've bought, I think it's like 19 acres in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Okay. Does Arizona have like better laws?
It was like 4 to 5 acres per family, but they were going to kind of build them close together. Well, then Cody like proposed a big house for all of them to share, but it was like, I think he said they had like stone walls between each one. So it's kind of like apartments.
Yeah.
But apparently Flagstaff has like rules, like they're very strict on like the HOA there. So they couldn't have actual apartments. So they can only have one main entrance to a residential home. Okay. So like it couldn't be like a duplex or an apartment complex. So he had it designed where it has the one main entrance. Mm-hmm. And once you go in, he has like his own, like there's like a central kitchen and a central living room and like a loft area. And that's like his home. And then each wife had her own home. And then the garage bay is under the house and it's like drive all the way through. It's like really cool. But Janelle, I think Janelle's like the best wife, hands down. Like she is so easy to deal with. She's like, yeah, I mean, whatever's great for the family, that's what we should do. You know, like she's very, and I don't know if it's because she was the middle wife for so, you know, she's always been a middle wife. You know, she, you know, like I think Christine came in not super long after her, but she's never been like the only wife. She's never really been the new wife because I think she came in like a few years after Mary. And so it was.
Oh, I have them reversed. I thought Janelle was the third wife and Christine was the second wife.
Well, I think Janelle's the second and Christine's the third because Christine was like the baby wife for the longest time. And then
Okay,
Robin,
right. Until Robin, yeah.
yeah. So I have like all these theories about like Mary, you know, since she only had the one child, which is a lesbian, by the way. She's
Okay.
like a woman, or they maybe already gotten married. They've been together for like years now, her and the girl that she's with. They're like so freaking cute too. Like they're absolutely adorable. And so Mary, you know, so she had the catfish, and then she's played victim ever since then. It's like, but I was catfished. It's like, you were cheating.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, yes, you were catfish, that was wrong, but also you got catfish because you were cheating.
Yeah, like, but it's like she refuses to accept any sort of responsibility because she was done wrong. And it's like, yeah, but had you not been cheating, you wouldn't have been catfish.
That's my favorite logic ever, where you're just like, yeah, that's hands down my favorite logic. Like, but I was wrong. And you're like, yes, but you were wrong first.
Yeah. But so she's kind of like dived into work. Like she has like a LuLaRoe business or something, and was like really good at it, and it was doing really well. And then she bought some old house that belonged to like her grandmother or something back in Utah, and it's like a bed and breakfast, and I think her mom lives there and like kind of manages that for her. And so, but she still wants like the same size house as everybody else.
I always thought that was crazy.
That is so stupid. And like, I'm in a sister wives group on Facebook, and I see a lot of people that are like, well, she deserves the same as the other wives. They shouldn't be treated differently. And I'm like, it's not so much you're treating them differently. It's that like, if I was in a plural marriage and I only had one child, and I'm the type of person, I would be that kind of person. Like, I don't want 10 freaking kids. Like, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a businesswoman.
Yeah.
Be the mom that helps pay for everything. Like, I don't want to be the Betty homemaker that's like Christine, that's teaching the kids and baking them cookies. And like, I'm not that kind of person. Like, I would be more like Janelle in her personality wise, but more like Mary as far as a kid. Of course, Mary wanted more kids, you know, she wasn't able to have them. So, but these people will be like, you know, well, she deserves the same as everybody else, you know, because it's an equal marriage thing. And I'm like, but like, if I was that one, I would be like, why don't we allocate those funds to go towards the children?
Yeah.
You know, towards the people that have more children. That makes
and
sense.
I feel like deserve is the wrong word for it, because you're like, yes, she absolutely does deserve it. She absolutely deserves it.
But however, me as a mother, I'm like,
yeah. But you're like, as a human being, you're like, I don't need all of this space.
Yeah.
Like, why would I want all of this?
I don't need 5 bedrooms.
Yeah, you're like, I need a room for my daughter, maybe a guest bedroom. Like, at most, she would need a 3-bedroom home.
Yeah.
Whereas like these other women, they have 3, 4, 5
if like
kids.
Some of the other kids were staying with her regularly or something, you know, have a few kids' bedrooms set up, I could see that would make sense.
Yeah.
But they don't, you know, like they're not living with her ever, you know, so it's like, why do you need all this room?
Yeah.
So they've, you know, because they've moved to Flagstaff, selling their houses in Vegas. And like Robin has bought a house in Flagstaff until they decide to build, or till they figure out what they're going to build, whether it's going to be one big house or, you know, 4 separate ones. And then Christine bought a house, and Janelle's renting a house, and Mary was renting a house. Well, Mary rented a house at one point, which apparently it's really hard to find a rental in Flagstaff, which is why 2 of them have bought houses, because it's just like impossible to find rentals. And then the few that like Mary had one, I think it was Mary, and she got kicked out because the neighborhood was like, no, we don't want them here, you know, because they're weird, they're polygamous, oh my god. And I'm just like, who cares? Like they bought 2 houses, they're renting 2 houses. Well, one of the houses Mary rented had an elevator in it, and she even says in one, she's like, it's just so big and lonely. And it's like, you don't need all this. You should be renting like a 1-bedroom studio apartment.
Yes.
So y'all get your house situation. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's the one thing. Like, I
like her and Robin, you know, they kind of get along really well.
Yeah, you're like, move in with her.
Be like, I would be like, hey, can I come live with you? Like, I'll
Yeah.
take a bedroom at the complete opposite end so that if you're intimate with a husband or I'm intimate with her, we don't have to hear each other. Like, I know that's got to be one of their issues with living in the same house. You know, you don't want to hear that. Like, you know, it happens, but you don't want to hear it.
They've always been
Mary ended up having to she didn't end up staying in the elevator house. She's got a different place that she's staying in now.
I don't understand their real estate. Like, I've never understood how they can afford them, how they switch so often.
Well, so they had to leave Vegas, you know, because they left Utah because of legal reasons.
Yeah.
So apparently the houses they had in Vegas were set up on balloon payments. I don't really know what that means, but basically it's like for the first so many years, it's cheaper and then it increases. And so the balloon payments were starting or stopping or something. And so like it was going to be too expensive for them to be able to stay there anymore. So they were having to sell the houses. But the cul-de-sac there was like perfect because they were all right there together.
Yeah,
like,
it looked like the perfect setup.
If you're not going to live in the same house, like that was like as good as it could possibly get.
Oh yeah.
But they couldn't afford it apparently. Like it was just once the balloon payment started or stopped, I don't know.
I just looked up balloon payment and the definition didn't make sense to me. So
you know, the trailers or whatever they are, you know, for this season, like Christine, there's spot where she's like, I can't be married to him anymore. I just can't do it.
I feel like they all say that every year.
And then him and Mary, like there's one part where she's like, so if I was to kiss you right now, like you wouldn't even let me because apparently they're not being intimate at all. Like at all. They're just basically business partners at this point.
Which didn't she say, I vaguely recall that she was like going to divorce him. But then she like I guess they did get divorced.
They did get a divorce so that he could adopt.
So that he could marry Robin, But I thought that Mary was like going to like divorce him again, like at some point that she was like I'm done, I'm out.
Like soul is going to be divorced. Not just legally, but completely.
Yeah,
I don't know. It definitely seems that way, both with her and Christine, kind of. But like you know, in that group that I'm in. Everyone's like, well, you know, he only cares about Robin anyways. I'm like, she's the newest wife. Like, that's going to happen. Like, I would expect it to happen because if you've been the wife for a long time and he's got this new one, like, how many years did it take for you to get to know each other? To, you know, build that relationship.
I didn't ever like how like Robin was brought in because I feel like she wasn't bonded to all of the other sister wives the same way that they all bonded to each other, where like everybody else was like unanimous decision of like, I want this person in the relationship. And Cody just kind of like overruled them all and like didn't even give them a chance. He was like, nope, she's going to be one of the wives and that's just how it is. And I was like worried about that, where I was like, you know, if he did that once, what's to stop him from doing it again? Like, you know, and it just, that never sat right with me, where like I like Robin. I think she's great, but like
this first episode of this new season, and these are all spoilers for you since you actually watched them.
I'm so behind, I will never.
He's basically said he doesn't think that he actually supports plural marriage anymore. That it's too hard. It's, you know, it's not fair. That he feels like he has 4 women who are unhappy because he can't fulfill everything for them.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, makes sense.
Yeah. Like, no, that's valid.
Keep 4 women satisfied in every aspect of their life.
Yes. Yeah.
They're all living separately. Like they're living all over town separately. So they don't even see each other. They're like, it took them like over a month to even get like a dinner together for this episode. Like they're not spending any time together. And so like, I really think they need, like, I think the one house is so.
I feel like they were
in that situation. I would want the one house.
They were happiest when they were all in Utah in that big house.
Yeah, and that's what they've said, that the older kids have bonded in a way that the younger kids haven't, because the older kids grew up together in the same house.
Yeah, and they were true, like they were all siblings. They were all raised by all 3 women, and they all like grew up as just full siblings instead of like, oh yeah, we're all separate families, but like we're together. And you're like,
And then, so Christine, you know, is a whiny bitch all the time and constantly having problems. But I feel like, because, you know, like the first 3 wives are pretty close together.
Yeah.
When they became wives. And then there was what, like 10, 15 years, I don't even know how long, before Robin came along. So Christine was the baby wife for forever. You know, she was the new one. She was the new toy.
And she was happy with that too, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She was like, she loved being the third
She
wife. You are
attention.
right. She was the third wife.
Yeah, she likes attention, you know, and that she fulfills that role. Like Mary's pretty quiet and reserved. Janelle isn't so quiet and reserved, but she's more focused on the kids and the family dynamic and making sure that there's funds and kind of being the family manager.
Yeah.
Christine was kind of the, oh, happy wife, you know, type person. And then here comes Robin, and she's not that baby wife anymore, you know, so she kind of loses her spotlight. And I feel like that's why she tends to fight with Cody a lot and have all these problems, because she was so used to being the spotlight and now she's not. So anyways, so Janelle is all for having the one big house. Robin doesn't really want the big house.
Well, why would she?
I think she's
always lived separate.
No, but I think she's kind of, if that's what's best for the family, then that's what I'll do, you know, and that's kind of how Mary is too. I think Mary's kind of in a, I think that the family needs that if we're going to succeed, you know, type of thing. But Christine's like, no, absolutely not. I'm just not going to do that. I don't want to see him leaving on a date with another wife. And it's like, you all have your own apartments, essentially. You all have your own homes.
Well, not
like when he's leaving in the mid-second, like just go to your own damn home. You don't have to stand up there and have a good time. Like,
but there's a schedule. Like, it's not like you don't already know. Like, there's a very clear schedule of like where he will be literally at all times.
Yeah.
So like to sit there and be like,
I don't want to
believe he's going.
Like you know, he's married to these other women.
Yeah, like
he's willing to go on dates with them. If you don't want to see it, go to your house. You don't have to be in the middle communal area. Go to your house and you won't see it. Don't look out your damn window. Like
if he's on a date with one of the women, go hang out with the other, like the other two. Like
go work on your relationship with those other women.
Yeah, like that's the benefit of it. Of like
that's what I would
always have people to hang out with.
I know. I would look forward to having the other women to bond with, and not like in a because I've dated women, like in a I get to, you know, have a romantic relationship with them too. Like, 'cause I probably wouldn't. Like I'm very, as far as with women goes, like I'm not one to want to be with, you know, just random women by any means. Like it would like it's
a very specific like situation where it's got to be the right person. Yeah.
Right. So it's more just like I would love having the larger family and having the other adults to be able to bond with, to be able to, when I'm irritated at this man, to have this other woman to be like, why the fuck does he do this? And she's like, oh my God, I know.
She gets it,
with me. You know, to be able to bond over that, you know, and have that relationship and have, if he was to die before we died, I still got my family, you know, I'm not the only parent left with my kids. There's still these other people to be there with my kids. Or if I was to die, I had that security of knowing they've got 3 other moms.
Yes. Yeah.
To be there, you know, because like, you know, my mom's died and I can't imagine not having my step-parents. Like I've got a stepdad and a stepmom, and I'm so glad my parents didn't stay together because I just can't picture my life without my step-parents. So it's like having that security of having those extra parents for my kids to have, you know, if I die, like I would love that. I would absolutely love that feeling of security. Like I'm not against it at all.
Yeah, I think just that whole community aspect, I just absolutely love it. But it's just that dynamic is so hard to maintain. Yeah. Like it's just I wanted to try polyamory forever. And if you recall, a couple years ago, I sent you screenshots of a conversation of polyamory.
It feels familiar, but I can't remember.
I'll refresh your memory. So it was a guy that I had met online. He was very open that he was in a relationship with this woman that she was his primary, she would remain his primary. But she had already started dating a woman, and she wanted him to also date somebody so that he wasn't left out. Totally fine. I would actually prefer to not be the primary, just because I don't like being the center of somebody's world, and I like just being able to like see somebody every few days. Like anything more than seeing my partner 3 days a week, I'm like, this is a lot. So we were talking, and he was like, hey, she wants to talk to you. She has final approval of who I date. Again, totally understandable. You gotta like and trust the person that your partner is going to be with. So one of the things that the rule is that she can and will, the important part is the will, read every message that me and him shared. And I told him, I said, listen, I am absolutely fine with occasional, she wants to read a specific thing. Like, I feel that there should be open communication of like, hey, this is what happened on my date, know as much or as little as you want to know. But the fact that he said she will read every single message that we say between each other. And I was like, well, that's an invasion of my privacy. Not that I'm saying anything that like she can't read, but the same courtesy is not afforded to me. So that just seemed very unfair. And I was still willing. I was like, you know what, maybe we can reach an agreement. Let's talk about this. So she talked to me, and I kind of explained where I was at, and she went off on me, and she called me a whore, and she called me a slut, and she, said I was trying to steal her man, and I was trying to get rid of her. And I was like, no, like, literally
not. Like,
I was like, literally the only thing that I want is an agreement that you won't read all of my text messages with him. I said, I fully respect your right to read them. 100% fine. But I don't want to have you sitting in bed with him at night reading through my messages to him. That's insane awkward to me.
Yeah.
And especially because this would have been a no contact situation. Like, I would have no contact with her whatsoever. I'd be in a completely separate relationship with him. And it was just the most insane thing. And I was like, yeah, that is not a relationship that I would enter into, because it's clearly not equal or on stable ground, because she's already dating someone. And I asked him, I was like, hey, did you get to do that? And he goes, no. And I was like, well, that's crazy. Like, why is she doing this to you? So there's a second part. A couple years later, we matched again on some dating site, and like, I had no idea, because it's like an anonymous thing where like you just respond to posts and then go from there. And we connected again, and I was like, I think you're this person. He's like, oh. And so I'm talking to him about it, and he goes, what do you mean that she said this? And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know that she said this? She told him something completely false. She told him that I told her that I was going to steal him, that she couldn't keep him, that she was terrible, that, because this had all happened in private messages between me and her. So he didn't have access. So she just went wild. Sure wasn't. So she just went wild, like saying all of these terrible things about me, how I didn't respect their relationship, and how, I am just like this horrible human being. And I was livid. And I actually went back, and it had been years, but I remember that I sent you the screenshots because I was just so upset by the hurtful things this woman had said to me.
Yeah.
I went back into our messages, and I was able to find my screenshots because I had deleted them. And I sent them to him, and he was like, oh my God, I can't believe that she said that to you. And I was like, I can't believe that you were in a polyamorous relationship with a woman who didn't respect you enough to like let you live.
Yeah.
And I've just been so nervous to try it ever since then, because I feel like every single time that I've tried, it's such a weird dynamic where you have to like find out exactly
the right kind of people to do that.
And people
like,
think it's
a
simple.
Great setup, but it's so taboo. Mm-hmm. It's not as taboo as it once was, but it's still very taboo.
Yeah.
And you have to be a person that can get over jealousy, because there's going to be jealousy. You're going to get jealous over something. It's only natural, but you have to learn how to cope with that and to not hold that against your partner or the other people in the relationship.
Yeah.
Like, and that's very hard for anybody to do, I think, you know, so.
I always ask the rules. I'm like, what are your rules for each other? And they're like, oh, we haven't really set any rules. I said, I'm not interested.
Yeah, no.
Like,
you gotta have rules.
Like, yeah, anytime somebody's
because there are rules, it's just whether or not you've said what they are.
Yes. And that's the thing, is I don't want to be in a situation where like I go out on a date and then all of a sudden I find out that I did something wrong after the fact because I didn't know. And so like, I feel like people are just like, oh, I want to get into this. And you're like, if you have not clearly defined rules with your partner, I can't.
You're not ready for this at all. Like, you haven't even thought about this.
I'm like, no, you have to go through it with like all the scenarios you have to go through with like a list.
Yeah, like the most crazy scenarios that you think won't happen, but go ahead and consider them, because it's that, you know, anything that can happen will happen, you know, that whole thing. And just assume that it will and figure out what the rules are in case it does.